All systems go. Clear for liftoff.
What is going on, SHIPIT Nation YouTube station? It's a beautiful day to be a basketball fan. We got a good-looking 6 games, NBA Cup night. Sports has been rolling. It's a good time to be alive and wagering on sports. Here with my guy, Rio. What's up, buddy? How you doing, man?
Yeah, I'm doing good. I'm just looking at some props over to the side right now, trying to see if I can get something in. But, yeah, I'm really excited about tonight's games. NBA Cup is definitely always a ton of fun, and we have the team that's projected to go 82-0 facing off, or 81, 82-0, whatever it is, against the Celtics tonight, and what should be a really fun game. Celtics kind of got to make up some ground too after losing that game to the Hawks the other night. So, yeah, some interesting angles on this slate tonight. I think that there's kind of two teams or two game environments that really stand out above the rest, and we'll kind of talk through that as we go through the slate.
Yeah, no, like you brought it up. I think this is the game of the year so far this season. Like you said, the undefeated Cavs versus the can't cover Celtics. So really excited to dive into the slate. Really quick, let's get some housekeeping stuff out of the way. We are still rocking NBA 50, 50% off, your first month with SHIPIT Nation. I think it's a steal. Whether or not you decide to use the Shiptimizer, it's $34 and 40 some odd dollars. I mean, it's the same as a gym membership. I don't use mine, so you might as well maybe put it on pause for a month if you're thinking about it and hop in. I mean, in every sport we're crushing. Football, we had a couple of huge winners last night, 6-figure scores. Shout out to all the winners. And like I said, we're at the nation. We're knocking at the door in NBA. So Rio made a run last night. Had a chance. We have a bunch of people in the Discord that are all close, and I think it's a good night to kind of crush that door down and get it going. So let's get right into it, man. Like I said, 6 games. Actually, you know what, dude? I made the mistake last time. We're not going to do it again. Shout out to everybody here in chat. We just started. We're already over 100 viewers. The usual suspects in here. Wins a lot. Anthony, Ross, Chris, Kevin, Little Neck. Shout out to him. Always throwing up beautiful write-ups inside the Discord. Kevin, Jason, William, Lyle, Go Collect, Wardo. Like I said, I don't think I missed anybody here. Lee, Cam the Man, Nate D, Mark. Hopefully I didn't miss anybody. If I did, I did not mean to. But I love it, man. Chat's excited. We're excited. Let's dive in. First game, like I said, game of the year. Cavs at Boston. I believe it's a 5.5-point spread here. Yes, it is. 235 total. I love this game, and I can't wait to hear what you think.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of definitely a great game to attack right off the rip, but there are some decently big injury tags on the Cavaliers side. They have 3 guys that are pretty big mainstays in the rotation, and even a starter. Isaac Okoro questionable, Sam Merrill questionable, Karis LeVert questionable. The Cavaliers are on a back-to-back, so they play tomorrow night. So would expect some sort of combination of one to two of these 3 guys sitting tonight, which would condense the rotation and possibly even make the matchup a little bit easier for some guys on the Celtics side. I think that Karis LeVert is probably the most likely to sit here, dealing with some knee inflammation. He's kind of dealt with knee injuries his whole career. But I mean, even Sam Merrill, he's missed last game, so he's probably not 100%. I think Isaac Crow probably has the best chance to play. Definitely would want him out there for his on-ball defense on Jason Tatum and co. And then the Celtics side, they're dealing with an injury as well. Peyton Pritchard, questionable with a left thumb sprain. So definitely something to keep an eye on, but they are getting Drew Holiday back, who did miss a game over the weekend. This game is very interesting because Donovan Mitchell missed a game over the weekend. He hasn't played since Friday, I believe. He's had 4 days off, so he should be full go. And then Drew Holiday hasn't played since the 13th. So he's had almost a week off. definitely think that both these teams are kind of ramping up for this game tonight. I think we see some really heavy minutes from both sides. Start with the Cleveland side. We'll start with the macro stuff because both teams have been very good defensively. I think that kind of just with the way the in-season tournament goes, that you can kind of throw out some of the defensive stats. We saw the Cavaliers when they played Chicago. They were just launching threes at the end of the game. Donovan Mitchell was sitting at like 36, 38 DraftKings points with like 2 minutes to go and then just hit like 3 threes and ended with 50. Actually, I think he had 60 in that game. Garland had a really good game there. So definitely think that the Cavaliers are taking this very seriously, and the Celtics are as well. Obviously a tough loss versus a game they should have won where they were 16-point favorites against Atlanta without Trae Young, and just, really embarrassing loss for them. So I would think that they want to kind of make up some ground here and get a win, and probably get a win in a big way. So should expect some big minutes from both sides. But yeah, I really like the spot for Donovan Mitchell on the Cleveland side. He shouldn't get too much attention now that the price tag has come up to $9K, looking at single-digit ownership right now. He's played really well lately, coming off of 3 straight games where he scored 60 DraftKings points. And then, most notably in that game against Chicago where he was just launching threes at the end there. So would expect something similar here. But the one area that the Celtics are really struggling right now is their pick-and-roll defense. Their bottom 8 in pick and roll points allowed per game. Donovan Mitchell, one of the top pick and roll scorers in the league, definitely top on the Cavaliers, so it's a good matchup for him there. But he's also just crushed this matchup against Drew Holiday and the Celtics since he's came over to the Cavaliers. He's averaging 52.4 DK points in 6 matchups against this Cleveland team. So I think that he's a really, really strong GPP play, and I think you could correlate some pieces on the other side as well, because I do think this is arguably the best game environment on the slate. Definitely prefer Mitchell to Garland, but it's equally as good of a matchup for Garland here. There's a chance that he plays a lot of minutes tonight as well and sits out tomorrow with it being a back-to-back. He's dealing with some lower back injury right now, but he should be good to go. But the shot volume has been there for him. Definitely a tougher on-ball matchup with, I would assume it's Derek White on Garland and then Drew Holiday on Mitchell, but above matchup DVP-wise versus the Celtics, who are bottom 6 in DVP versus point guards this season. Definitely prefer the upside of Donovan Mitchell, but I think Garland is very much in play. Not too into the bigs here. If I had to choose one, I would choose Jared Allen just because I think the floor is a little bit safer with the double-double upside. But nothing really stands out from a matchup perspective. The Celtics are giving up a good amount of rim points right now, so there's a little bit of upside there. But I think I would side with Allen. But these prices are a little uncomfortable, and it's a very, very strong center position. And then these secondary guys, it would just have to come down to who's in or who's out. If LeVert misses, I think they're pretty comfortable giving Ty Jerome all of those minutes. And the same thing for Sam Merrill. If he misses, Ty Jerome going to take a handful of those. If Isaac Okoro misses, probably looking at George Niang in the starting lineup, and then that would just be a much better matchup for the wings on the Celtics side. But shifting over to the Celtics, tough on paper matchup if Okoro were to be in for both Tatum and Brown. Tatum probably going to be guarded by Evan Mobley, but still plenty of upside here. The Cavaliers are allowing 14 three-pointers per game towards the bottom half of the league there. Celtics are the top three-point shooting team in the league. We know they're going to want to launch it from deep. Slightly above average matchup too, DVP-wise. The Cavaliers allowing the second most fantasy points to power forwards this season. So, there's definitely upside for a guy like Tatum. He's got triple-double upside, probably going to play close to 40 minutes tonight. So, they need to make up a lot of points here. So they need to win, and they need to score. They need to win by, 15, 20 points tonight to make up some ground there. So I like Tatum to have a big game here. Same thing for Brown. I do prefer the upside on Tatum, but Jaylen Brown probably going to project as the better point per dollar play at 8.1K, $2,000 cheaper than Jaylen Brown. But keep an eye on the Okoro news, because if Okoro's out and Jaylen Brown's being guarded by George Niang, then this is a great spot for him. He's quietly played very well lately, shot the ball much better after a string of games where he just couldn't hit any threes. 46 plus DK points in 3 straight games, so he looks pretty solid. I think Derek White has enough upside to be in consideration here as well, for the same thing I mentioned with them needing to score a lot of points here. And then Drew Holiday, I could see his minutes really getting pushed up for the matchup, and it's really not all that bad of a spot. He's going to be guarded by Darius Garland, which is it's a good matchup for him. He's only 5.2K, so I think that he is a pretty sneaky option in the value range for a point guard there. And then I won't be getting to Al Horford or Kata or anything like that. I think that you're just looking at the starters for the Celtics.
No, love it, man. Great breakdown as usual. Just to kind of reiterate a few things from my notes. I know you killed that, so people are listening to you over me. But the Jared Allen stuff, for me, it's very inviting. Like you said, if you had to pick a big, you'd rather play him. I do like his minutes have been trending up. 73 looks like a nice little tag if you're looking to kind of get, an extra piece here. But you're right. It's Mitchell. I think you see Mitchell and Tatum and all the other guys follow along up near 40 minutes. My only question before we kind of move on would be, if we see a spot where Pritchard is out and you have Drew Holiday playing those minutes, like you said, he's been off a week. Do you find yourself getting to some GPP love for Sam Hauser at 3,900?
Yeah, I could definitely see that. They really don't have a lot of guard depth behind Pritchard, so they're going to have to run bigger lineups out there. I would assume Cornette probably mixes in a lot more. They can always slide Al Horford down to the 4, Tatum down to the 3, Brown down to the 2, things like that. But yeah, Hauser would I think he would be in consideration. I'm just not sure how he would match up in comparison to some of the other values on the slate that we have. But yeah, I mean he's a sniper, and this is a decent spot for 3-point shooters. He's taken 10 3-pointers in the last 2 games, so definitely a good amount of upside there if he knocks down 4 to 5.
Yeah, no, definitely contingent upon what kind of value opens up. For myself, if I'm making multiple lineups, I don't mind that. So I like you agree. Moving on, guys. Hey, game 2, Charlotte at Brooklyn, 3.5-point favorites for Brooklyn in a 221 total. Get better every show. I missed both of them last time with chat and injuries. Today it was just the injuries. But it's Claxton, Richards are out. Looks like DFS is probable and Trey Mann is questionable. Before Rio jumps in here, everybody go smash the like button. Last week's show, we almost got up to 200. Let's see if we can get above that 200 right now. We have 247 people live. Let's get above that 200 marker. Let's set a season high here before the first month ends. But Charlotte and Brooklyn, what are we thinking?
Yeah, I don't know. This game is getting a ton of ownership, and this is probably my least favorite game if I run the slate. I mean, I get it. The prices are really good on the Brooklyn side. They are thin, so it makes sense to go there. But, I mean, these teams are playing down in pace. They are 2 weak defenses, so there is some upside for scoring there. Nets are a huge rim funnel. They're allowing the 4th most rim points per game, and the Hornets right in front of them, 3rd worst rim defense in the league. Obviously, not having guys like Nick Richards and Mark Williams down there to kind of clog the paint. You have an undersized center like Grant Williams, and then the Nets just don't even have a center, really. It's Ben Simmons playing center, and then like Noah Clowney's undersized, Trent Watford pretty undersized too, and not really playing a ton of minutes. So it makes sense that this game's getting a little bit of ownership, but I will probably be under on it as a whole. I don't really like it. There's kind of a lot going against LaMelo Ball here in this matchup in my eyes. He has a great role. I definitely love it. He's top of the league in touch time, assist percentage, usage rate, all the stuff that matters for a guard. Very expensive price tag for him, 9.8K. Miles Bridges returning always kind of takes a little bit of upside off of him. Dennis Schroeder has shown to be a pretty solid on-ball defender. The one thing that, like, the biggest hit on LaMelo's upside for me is seeing that the Nets are the 2nd best pick and roll defense in the league. The Thunder are number 1, but he gets pretty much a majority of his scoring comes from the pick and roll stuff. He's 3rd in the league in pick and roll scoring, 11.4 points per game. I think he's averaging like over 4 3-pointers made per game, so that's where most of his scoring is coming from. But could still hit a decent score because he does have the rebounding and assist stuff to fall back on. But I'll probably be underweight LaMelo. I could even see myself fading him in 150 if I do go there. But yeah, I don't know. Brandon Miller upside definitely capped with Miles Bridges back. I think Bridges is kind of interesting if we do get a little bit more minutes out of him because he's kind of the guy for this team. Like last year, he was playing 40 minutes on like a nightly basis. He did return from a 10-day absence with the knee injury, played 27 minutes in his first 2 games back. But the good thing was that he played in the back-to-back. Sometimes they ease these guys in. They'll sit him on a back-to-back. He played 27 minutes in both of those games. Had a couple days off, so maybe we get up to 35 from him. And, this is a guy that we're pretty accustomed to playing in the mid 7Ks, even the 8K range last year. So I think Bridges makes a little bit of sense, especially as a pivot off of Brandon Miller, who's looking to get a good amount of ownership. I think this is kind of a sneaky good spot for Grant Williams, not because the rim stuff, but I could just see this game playing a lot smaller, and Grant Williams played a ton of minutes against Cleveland, which is a kind of a matchup where you needed more size. This one, he's going up against Ben Simmons, who's not a true center, and then a bunch of other guys that aren't really true centers. So I could see Grant Williams playing a good amount of minutes here at 4.8K. He looks like a pretty solid value. I don't know. There's really nothing else on the Hornets side. I guess if you want to make a pivot to Diabate, but he's priced around some really strong center plays, so I don't think that I'm going to get to any of him. I guess like a Cody Martin is kind of fine as a last man in, but yeah, not a ton of interest on the Charlotte side. On the Brooklyn side, Schroeder's price tag has come way down, but the knock on him is that when he shares the floor with Ben Simmons, it just really, really takes away from the role that we like to see when Ben Simmons is off the court, because he doesn't really have the ball in his hands as much. He was towards the top of the league in touch time. He might have been, leading the league in touch time for a good portion of the season, but now it's kind of come down a little bit. Ben Simmons takes a lot of potential assist away from Schroeder. I guess like Cam Thomas is a good upside option because we know that he does have that 40-point ceiling, and that's what we need from him in order for him to hit a GPP score. I don't love it, but I can see why people would make, I understand why he's getting ownership. Cam Johnson probably be my favorite play on the Brooklyn side. Charlotte pretty good at taking away 3-pointers, but he's just playing a ton of minutes and he's shooting the ball very, very effectively this year. So he looks good. Kind of always a fine last man in option, very similar to like a Tobias Harris. They can flash upside at times and have a pretty solid floor. On paper, very good matchup for Ben Simmons with the Hornets being such a weak rim defense. I think he's got a little bit of upside, but it's kind of capped because he's not playing. I don't think he's top 30 minutes yet this season, kind of capped out in that like 27-minute range. Even in the last couple of games against New York, played 22 and 25. Yeah, 27 seems like the high end for him. So it's tough to invest there when there are some really strong center options. He's only center eligible, which is a bit odd as well. And I don't know. I don't really have a take on like Dorian Finney-Smith or Zaire Williams. They're just okay, like last man in, not really great values in my eyes.
Yeah, no, I feel like the Nets are like the definition of the last man in team. Like I just find myself in a position with like what you said, Zaire Williams or Cam Johnson. I agree with everything that you're saying. I think if we're going to get ownership on the Melo with his, 6 of 7, 50 straight DraftKings point nights, I'm okay with the fade there for better options. Like you said, with Bridges back, it really kind of jumbles everything. And I especially, if Trey Man does come back, I mean, that team's a full stay away from me. And then for the Nets stuff, you're right. I mean, Ben Simmons is center only. A little bit of discussion about that in the chat. Maybe a point guard center would be a little bit more effective, but I don't see them changing that. You were correct. The 27-minute marker for Ben Simmons was the max that he's seen all season. And yeah, I mean, people I think are going to gravitate toward the Schroeder price tag. But since Ben Simmons is back, like you said, I mean, the assists have no chance of double doubles, which is kind of where we saw his upside was. But yeah, no, I agree. Don't really love the game. I could see why people are going to it. But there's some juicier stuff moving on. So as we're moving on here, Nuggets at Grizzlies, 3.5 point spread here, 227 total, I believe, if I do my math correctly. Yes, these teams just played the last game out with a final score of 105-90 in favor of the Grizzlies. Joker's out, Jaw's out, Gordon's out, Edie's out, and Smart with the questionable tag. You kind of alluded to it in the Discord chat earlier this morning. The prices have come up on some of these Nuggets. I'm curious to see what you think and if there are any plays on the Nuggets side.
I can hear your phone buzzing there. I feel like we got the same notification, some MLB stuff.
Oh, There we go. Oh, the Mets stuff.
Yeah.
My bad. Let me move that phone. My bad,
No, you're
fellas.
good.
Yeah,
I got it. I got it going off in my ear too. Yeah. So this is I'm a little surprised at. I mean, this is not like a crazy high total, but it is a little bit higher than I think it should be. The Nuggets have just been a complete train wreck in the first two games without Nikola Jokic. They have a 96.3 offensive rating, which would be like far and away dead last in the league. There's some noise going on out my window right there, but hopefully nobody can hear that. Their defense has held up, though. They've been pretty solid there. And then the Grizzlies, they've been really strong defensively all year long. Top 5 overall in defensive rating. They're playing a lot faster too, which is the third in the league in pace this season. So maybe that's where we're seeing the game total come in a little bit higher than I was imagining. But yeah, I mean, we haven't really seen some big games that we should have seen from these Nuggets side. We did see Michael Porter Jr. had a really good game against New Orleans. New Orleans is the worst defense in the league this year, so that's kind of this should have happened. But then he followed it up with a really bad game against Memphis. Went 0 for 4 from 3. His minutes got cut down. He's 7.2K. Very tough to get to him. Very going to be low owned. So I guess if you want to make a argument for it for playing him, that would be it. Jamal Murray, I don't know, 8.3K. It's not cheap for him. He is playing a ton of minutes. The rebounding assist number has been good. Not really taking a ton of shots like I would like to see from him. 15 and 16 in the first 2 games without Jokic, and really hasn't been all that good from a points per minute perspective. Obviously, the usage and rebounding and assist numbers all get ticked up in a big way without Jokic, but I gotta scroll down my notes to try to find him. But he's without Jokic and Gordon this season, or with them off the court, he's only averaging 0.95 fantasy points per minute, which is that's really not good. We want to see like something like 1.3, 1.4 from a guy that's priced in the 8Ks. It's a tough matchup too. I mean, this especially if Marcus Smart is in, they have some really good on-ball defenders. They got Vince Williams back. He's a really good on-ball defender. I think like Scottie Pippen Jr., Desmond Bane, both very solid. So there's a lot kind of going against him. I get it. Jokic is out. The usage is going to be really good for him. I just think that he might be slightly over-owned in comparison to what his ceiling could be. It is nice that he does have the shooting guard eligibility, but you can find $700 more and get up to Donovan Mitchell for a 60 DK point upside. So probably what I'm going to be looking to do. I'll definitely have some Jamal Murray. Maybe I'll get to him in game stacks a little bit more, because I do think that on the smaller slate that game stacks are viable, and that's probably where I would see a ceiling game from him in a back and forth affair. So maybe pairing him with like a Jaren Jackson or a Desmond Bane on the other end makes some sense. But yeah, I mean, like Christian Braun is a pretty expensive now. Peyton Watson is very overpriced at 5.6K. I just think that's an easy fade. Russell Westbrook, kind of interesting. Hasn't really seen a huge uptick in minutes with Jokic out, but should still have, theoretically should have really good usage in the second unit. They need some secondary creation from the bench guys when Jamal Murray is off the court. So that would kind of line up with what Russell Westbrook brings to the table. I think Saric is a pretty solid center play at 4.7K. He's probably been the best player for the Nuggets in the 2 games that Jokic has missed, averaging right around 30 DK points. So he looks pretty solid. And then I think Julian Strawther is a very strong value play at 3.6K. He did really well in the same matchup, went for 19 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, 34 DK points, shot 4-7 from deep. That's what they need. They need some off-ball scoring. The Memphis Grizzlies are dead last in catch-and-shoot scoring. They're much bigger three-point funnel. So that, I think that Julian Strawther makes a ton of sense. Would probably look to pair him away from MPJ. I have to look at the popcorn machine and see what the rotations look like. But I think that it was Strawther that was kind of taking away the minutes from MPJ. That's kind of why you see 27 from Porter Jr. and 25 from Julian Strawther. So I'll probably look to pair those guys away from each other. And then on the Memphis side, I think Jaren Jackson probably got the most upside. This is a pretty good matchup. The rim defense for the Nuggets hasn't been great all season long. Definitely has a little bit more upside from a rebounding perspective with Edey out tonight. But I don't know, the Grizzlies, they're going to play 11 guys for sure. They'll play 10 guys for sure, and possibly 11 to 12. They have enough bodies still if Marcus Smart does play. So it's like we're not getting minute ceilings from these guys. And even with a pretty strong team total, 115, like I could see it being very, very spread out. But Jaren Jackson Jr. definitely the highest upside play on the Grizzlies side for me. I think Desmond Bane, maybe he gets a little bit more run. Maybe we get like 32 from him. I haven't checked, but I think they might be on a back-to-back. They might be playing tomorrow, so he probably would sit tomorrow and then play a good amount tonight. Had 11 rebounds last game, which is kind of rare for somebody of his size. But yeah, he's probably going to continue to take on a pretty large ball handling role as long as Ja Morant is out. They're going to be looking to go away from Scottie Pippen Jr. a little bit more, kind of seeing his minutes come down a little bit. So I think Bane is pretty solid. If he gets to that 30-minute mark, he's very good point per minute guy with Ja off the court. And then I'll probably be skipping over everybody in that mid-tier range for Memphis and just looking at the centers, Brandon Clark and Jay Huff. Would be max one of those guys. But yeah, Brandon Clark played pretty well in that game against Denver. Only played 22 minutes, so there's not a huge minute ceiling. Yeah, I don't know. I think that the theme of this team, it's like very hard to feel confident about any of these Grizzlies guys. And yeah, even with the game environment looking a little bit better than expected, I don't think I'm going to be getting too much here.
Yeah, no, a couple things. Memphis does play tomorrow. They're at home versus Philly, which, yeah, I knew Philly has been pretty ugly, but 2-11, that's quite the start to the season. Yeah, no, I mean, you drilled it. I guess my only question in my first highlight would be Bane. This is his third game back off of the injury, and I think this could be a game, step in if I'm wrong, but I think this could be a game he sneaks into the 30s like what you said. So he's going to be my kind of highlight. I might donate to some Brandon Clark too if he gets to start. He did finish last game. I don't know if Edey was already out of that game or did he just not finish the game, but he did finish that game. And really the only thing I have to, say is I think Sark will be very popular today at his tag, not like extreme, value coming out yet for the slate. And the value that we do have with the Zach Collins and Luka's going to play, so I'll take that out of consideration. But he's cheaper than Zach Collins, which we'll get to. So I think he will be popular. Now that we're halfway through, we missed a couple of questions here in the chat. First of all, shout out to Josh. I appreciate the love on the Kawhi jersey. Gang Green, we kind of touched on, or Rio touched on Zaire Williams. That's more of a last guy in kind of situation, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yeah, let me double check real quick because I don't know. It's yeah, I just don't see a huge minute ceiling with Dorian Finney-Smith looking to get back to full health, and Cam Thomas should be good to go. So yeah, more just a last man in type of play. I think he's probably slightly over-owned for his upside there.
Absolutely. And now we're going a couple games back, but we had a question about Ty Jerome if LeVert misses. Is that going to be mid 20 minutes max, if you say?
Yeah, definitely a possibility. So Karis LeVert playing like right around 24, 25 minutes and pretty sizable role off the bench in that second unit. So yeah, I think that 23 to 25 is probably within the range of outcomes for Ty Jerome. He's a point per minute stud. I mean, he put up a huge game against Charlotte, was, like right there from a fantasy scoring perspective with Darius Garland. That was a game without Donovan Mitchell. So yeah, definitely big upside for a guy like Ty Jerome if LeVert misses. Great.
And last one, I know we're kind of going games back, but any issue with the Thomas Schroeder Johnson max 1?
Thomas Schroeder Johnson. I'll probably say max 2. I would probably be max 1, maybe be max 1 Schroeder and Ben Simmons. But I think you could probably get to 2 of Schroeder, Cam Johnson, and Thomas. Like they're not competing with too much. Like if anything, Schroeder is helping those guys, maybe distributing a little bit more, and Cam Thomas is just a shot volume machine. So maybe we get some more potential assists from a guy like Schroeder. And same thing, Cam Johnson's an off-ball guy, hoping for a couple threes and some rebounding.
Love it. Swaggy Pete, we have not touched on the Lakers stuff yet. We will get there with 2 more games as that ends the night. But jumping in, game 4, Pelicans at Dallas. This, in my belief, has obviously, according to the spread, but the biggest chance for a blowout. 13 is the total that we have now with the 222 total. Usual suspects for New Orleans. I don't think there's anything crazy there. Trey Murphy is going to play tonight after missing last game with injury management, which I love the term now. At least they're coming out and saying the injury management stuff than the last couple of years. And Luka is questionable, but he was at shoot-around today. Are we thinking this is going to be a blowout, or could we find some diamonds in the rough in this?
Nah, yeah, this game definitely has blowout written all over it. Obviously, that could change if Luka does get ruled out. So he was present at shoot-around. It didn't say he was participating, so that's definitely, the wording matters there, because we've seen guys be present at shoot-around and then miss the game. But I mean, you would kind of imagine with Luka in the spread being 13 that he's probably going to play. They could probably still blow him out even if Luka sat. I don't know exactly how much the Mavericks really care about the in-season tournament stuff. Definitely have higher aspirations. They're 0-1 right now, so I don't know if they're really caring that much. The Pelicans are actually 1-0 right now in their bracket, so maybe they'd be looking to push their guys up for more minutes and kind of keep that point differential low. But yeah, all things are pointing to this game being a blowout. Pelicans have just been absolutely terrible with this JV roster led by Brandon Ingram. I mean, they're awful defensively. They're third worst in the league defensive rated team, second worst rim defense, bottom half of the league in 3-point defense, and then the third worst transition defense, where the Mavericks are top 8 in defensive rating. Pretty much don't have any glaring holes in their defense. So yeah, big mismatch here. Touch on the Pelican stuff really quick, because I think that if there's any chance for this game to remain close, it's going to be on the back of Brandon Ingram. Continues to get priced up, continues to not really pay off the tag in a big way, and hasn't really killed you for fading him. Did have some pretty decent games the past week or so in games that remain close. Scored 55, 53, 44.75 DK points against Brooklyn, Denver, and LA. And then the game against OKC where they got blown out, he had like 30-something DK points. But yeah, he's had a huge role right now with the injury situation. Has a 34.4% usage rate, 38.5% assist percentage, 5.4 minutes of touch time per game over the last 4 games with the injury stuff. So role is really good for Brandon Ingram, but I will be playing underweight the field because I just think that this game's got a good chance of blowout. I don't mind Trey Murphy in the mid-tier. He did get up to 30 minutes last game, coming off of a game that he missed due to the injury management, like you mentioned. Didn't shoot the ball all that great from 3-point range. Hasn't been more than 2 3-pointers in a game all season. Went 2 for 8 against Denver, 2 for 8 against OKC. But did shoot 7 of 15 against Denver from the field. Added some rebounds, 8 rebounds, 3 assists in that game. So I think there's still a little bit of meat left on the bone for Trey Murphy from an upside perspective, and probably still going to play 30 minutes even in a blowout. And then I mentioned Yves Missy the last time I was on the show, mentioning I think it was against OKC when they played, when I was talking about Missy. But yeah, the minutes are looking pretty strong for him. Could be a pivot in that 5K range, or 5K below range at center. Mentioned that he is like more the prototypical big. You want him out there in certain matchup against teams that have, prototypical bigs on the other side. And then you see against Denver, played 29 minutes. Against the Lakers, played 29 minutes. So looking, right around 30 minutes per game the last couple of games. And the Dallas Mavericks are going to run out a true center for 48 minutes with Gafford and Lively. So yeah, good chance we see a little bit more minutes from Missy tonight. Maybe he tops, 30, gets up to like 32 or something like that. But yeah, with Murphy returning, I think that Jalen Noel probably out of play. Jamal Cain probably out of play now. Trey Jameson has overtaken Daniel Tice as the backup center. Not enough upside there, I don't think. But yeah, it's just Ingram, Murphy, and Missy for me on the Pelican side. Not really too interested in them. I just don't see how you can pay 11.2K for Luka right now. He's only topped 70 DK points once this season and topped 60 DK points 3 times this season. So really tough to find ceiling from this team. They're playing down in pace right now. So yeah, I don't see myself getting to Luka. Don't see myself getting to Kyrie if Luka is in. If Luka is out, I think Kyrie becomes pretty interesting because he's a much better transition scorer. They're going to play a lot faster with Luka out and Kyrie running the point. So I think that he has a lot of scoring upside from the transition scoring stuff if Luka does miss. But right now, won't get to him. Probably won't get to PJ or Clay. I think that the only guys you're really considering are the centers for Dallas. because this is a really, really good spot for both of them. Lively is continuing to get the start. Jason Kidd said they wanted to give him more run as a starter for these next few games. So this is a really good spot for him to get extended against this Pelicans team that is just getting decimated right now versus centers. They are the bottom 11 in the league DVP-wise versus centers, but dead last over the last week, allowing 10 more fantasy points to the opposing team's centers than the next closest team, Chicago, 10 points behind them. So I think that, if we start to get like 26, 28 from Lively, which we have seen 26 against OKC, but otherwise the minutes have been kind of, in the low 20s. But yeah, this could be a spot where we see some really big upside from him. And I think that Little Nick called out, we're going to see some 40 to 50 pointers from Lively. I think that this is on paper a really good spot for him. So yeah, Max 1, Gafford, Lively. I want exposure to both of them in case I do feel fairly confident that one of those guys puts up a pretty big score tonight. And then lastly, I'll mention Jaden Hardy if Luka does get ruled out. This is just could be a spot where I see them, winning the game pretty handily, and then he gets like a full fourth quarter run. We know that he's a really good scorer, pretty solid fantasy point per minute guy, and with this being the in-season tournament game, maybe they just tell him to go out there and just launch a bunch of shots. So he would be interesting if Luka were to miss. But yeah, not a great game to attack outside of the centers on the Dallas side.
Yeah, no, I mean, Lively's down to 4,400, unbelievable tag. I don't mind taking full advantage of that. I have the triple check mark next to Trey Murphy here. So last time that happened, it was good old Goga letting the chalk down. So take with that what you will with the triple check mark. And I think a very important note that what you brought up with him back, it definitely bumps Jalen Noel, who got up to 35 minutes last game. I think people are going to see that. I don't think they'll take into consideration that Murphy was out. And then I'll just say you drilled everything, not really in love with this game. I do find myself wasting a few entries in some smaller dollar stuff with, big tournaments with kind of going the Ingram and Kyrie run back, game stays close. I'm not touching Luka like what you said. I think he's all banged up and he's going to continue to play, but we've seen him defer in some of these situations to Kyrie and just stand completely out of the possession. So I don't mind, $3, $15, whatever it is. I don't think they're running like an $8 today. But I don't mind wasting a few entries in that, kind of getting those two studs, which will be much different than the field with a different kind of builds at a 222 total. But 2 games left here. OKC at the Spurs, 9.5 point spread, 225.5. I'm going to peek to see if that line has moved since the Wemby news. I don't believe that it has. But Wemby's out, Isaiah Joe is out, and Vassell is questionable today. I don't think we have any other injury news here other than usual injuries. But this is a pretty interesting spot for me with the Zach Collins news and Castle still being priced under 5K. What do you think about this one?
Yeah, injury bugs starting to set in a little bit for the Spurs side with the Wemby stuff, and then Vassell being downgraded. So that's pretty big news. I would say that if this was any other matchup, I would have a ton of interest in these Spurs guys. But OKC, man, they're just too good. They're just playing really good defense right now. Really, like one of the best all-around teams in the league. They are first in their group right now with an 11-point lead over the Lakers. So I don't think that the OKC Thunder really care that much. I think their coach pretty much said like they're not treating this as if it's any other game. Kind of a little bit of alarming thing right there, because we'd like to see like SGA and Jalen Williams play deep into fourth quarters. Even if they're up by like 20 points, you'd want to see them just absolutely run up the score. But they really didn't in that last game, in their first in-season tournament game. But regardless, this is still a pretty good spot for the Thunder. Mainly those two guys, though. SGA going up against Stephon Castle. Looks like he's going to be a very strong defender in the league someday. I mean, he looks pretty good now, but he's still young. SGA, very crafty on offense, could definitely have the advantage there. In 4 games without Chet this season, he's averaging 57.8 DK points. He's at a 36.16% usage rate, 30% assist percentage, and an 8.6 rebounding rate, while averaging 1.57 fantasy points per minute with Chet off the court this season. So very, very strong spend up for SGA tonight. I think Jalen Williams is an interesting spend up at center. Still wish they would give him the power forward eligibility, but whatever. Still should be a really good spot though against Zach Collins. Going to be able to take him off the dribble because he's not your prototypical big man. The rim defense for the Spurs took a really big hit with Wemby out last game. They allowed just under 50 points in that last game without Wemby, and J-Dub is averaging 48.7 DK points per game in the 4 games without Chet this season, and a slight usage rate increase, just plus 2% there. Lou Dort going to get a ton of ownership in the mid-tier, but he looks pretty strong. He's kind of been the biggest beneficiary from a points DK scoring perspective, 30-plus DK points in 3 of the last 5 games. Still looking like he's slightly underpriced at 4K. No Isaiah Joe, maybe brings up his minutes a little bit. Aaron Wiggins, same thing for him. He's pretty solid value at 4.4K. Hasn't showed the same ceiling as Dort, and the minutes aren't all that there, but maybe he gets a little bit more run here with no Isaiah Joe. Should put Case and Wallace into the lineup, but yeah, I don't know. You're not really looking for a ton of upside from any of these guys, these secondary pieces, so they're kind of just last man in if you need to fill a shooting guard or a small forward spot in that 4K range. And then on the Spurs, if Vassell gets ruled out, would have a little bit more interest in a guy like Stephon Castle. Would imagine Julian Champagnie gets some more minutes along with Trey Jones. But right now, it's just going to be the centers, Zach Collins and Charles Bassey. I do like Zach Collins right now, or in this spot. He shown pretty solid upside this season when he's given that minutes. He put up 34 DK points last game without Wemby, and then last season was averaging just under 31 DK points per game without Wemby. So pretty solid price tag for him. Center is pretty good value wise on this slate. You got guys like the Dallas Bigs and Dario Saric, things like that, but he could go a little bit overlooked. And then Bassey gonna slide in for those backup center minutes. He's only 3.4K. That's really I have interest in him just because he's cheap, and I might need the salary, but not somebody I'm going out of my way to play by any means.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think this game is pretty straightforward. I mean, personally, I won't be getting all crazy with this Thunder value. I mean, somebody's gonna jump out and be a part of it, but I think it's just Lou Dort, like what you alluded to, and I'll be praying, that this game stays close because we can see those monster games from both SGA and Jalen Williams. But really only question that I have here, no Sandro love. You think it's Bassey over Sandro? I won't even try and pronounce his last name. That I won't butcher, but we're gonna call him Sandro.
Mamukelashvili.
There we go.
Yeah.
There we go.
I have a lot of practice from watching a lot of UFC. You got a lot of guys from wherever he's from that sound like that. But yeah, I think you'd want to be max 1 Bassey and Sandro because I did mention him in my notes when I forgot, kind of just overlooked him a little bit. But the Thunder are going to play. They do run small ball lineups, so I would think that Sandro would make more sense in the game environment, but it's just, I don't know, it's tough. Even with Pop not coaching there, you don't really know what the assistant coach is going to do. So, yeah, on paper, it makes sense to play Sandro as the backup center tonight instead of Charles Bassey, who's your prototypical big man. But, yeah, I don't know. He's definitely worth some exposure because he does have the power forward eligibility. He's a really good point-per-minute guy. Played 17 minutes against Dallas and put up 27 points. That's what he can do when he's given 15 to 20 minutes of runway. I think he has a couple 30-pointers mixed in here this season as well in a short amount of time. So, yeah, I mean, especially if the game blows out, he's probably one of the guys that would be on the court. So, yeah, I don't mind Sandro at all, but very tough to get to in single entry. GPP, I definitely think you would want some of him.
Yeah, no, it kind of gives me that the Boban feel, right? It's hey, you want to roster him at nothing. Hopefully that game's out of hand with 10 minutes left in the game and he can get up there. Great, guys. This is awesome. We're at 4:14 live here with 1 game left to go. I get to do it twice a show. You guys click that thumbs up button down there. If you haven't subscribed, do that. Get a notification every time we go live. But like I said, tonight we're going to knock down the door. The Discord's going to be on fire later tonight. So let's get that above that 200 like marker. Let's just go 2 questions here really quick. I know we've alluded to it on past shows regarding the NBA Cup. One more time for people that weren't here. What do you think about these blowouts? Do we see, obviously it's going to be team dependent after a game that they've already played in the NBA Cup. But personally, is there anybody that really stands out on the slate to you that would leave those starters in? I think it's Boston. Who else am I missing here? I know we alluded to it earlier, but who would you see in this blowout that keeps starters in just a little bit longer?
Yeah, Boston for sure. I would think that the Lakers maybe. I mean, I don't know exactly how much they care about it because they obviously won last year, and maybe they want to retain the crown. Maybe they just, I don't know. Like LeBron's getting old. AD's not the most durable guy, so I doubt that they would want to keep them in there for super long. But they're kind of right there behind OKC, and OKC clearly doesn't care about the in-season tournament, so they, theoretically they can catch them. And then some other teams that are on the slate that might care a little bit more than others would be the Cavs. Cavs for sure. Yes, the Cavs in Boston. Like the Atlanta Hawks are 2-0 right now. They have the Cavs would need to win and score 103 or more points to overtake the Atlanta Hawks, and then the Celtics would need to win and score. They need to win by like 20, 30 points to catch up to the Cavs tonight. So yeah, those are the main teams. Let me see where the Jazz are. And Jazz they're not really competitive, so yeah, it'd be those teams.
Especially after tonight. Two quick ones. Can you play Collins and Bassey together, or Bassey or Sandro, whoever way you want to kind of go? Can you play those guys together in a lineup?
I don't love it, but you could. I probably wouldn't, to be honest. I just don't know if there's enough paths for Collins and Bassey to get there from a fantasy scoring perspective, just in like a regular game flow of the game environment. Like I think the outs for Collins getting there is that the game is close and he's probably playing 32 minutes. And then for Bassey, you're kind of hoping the opposite. The game is blown out and then maybe he's out there for more minutes, or maybe Collins gets into foul trouble, something like that. So I think I would probably be max one of those two guys.
Great. And last one, Bridges or Murphy? Our guy Jordan in the chat already went Bridges. Would you agree with Jordan?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I kind of like Murphy a little bit more, but I think that would change if, like, I get like a hunch that Bridges is going to top 30 minutes. I think that he's definitely too cheap right now and going to be a lot lower owned. So I would say right now Murphy, much safer option, but I do like Bridges more if we see 30 plus minutes out of him.
All right, I love it. All right, one game left, guys. This is going to be it. This is going to be the popular game. This is going to be the start your lineups with hopefully Boston doesn't kill you and roll it into a late night hammer. The Jazz at Lakers, 11-point spread. I believe if my math is right. That's 234 total. Rui's still questionable. I think AD was questionable. He is now probable. Kessler and Hayes are out. This is going to be the game of the night people are going to like. What are we thinking?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I like it a lot too. There's just a lot to like about this game environment, even if it wasn't an in-season tournament game. Both these teams are really bad defensively. Jazz like to push the pace a little bit. Lakers not really playing with a ton of pace, but Jazz are the second worst defense in the league. Lakers are the sixth worst. Jazz top 10 in pace. Lakers are 16th. So like I said, not a ton to talk about there. But the Lakers are surprisingly allowing a lot of points at the rim this season. And same with the Jazz without Walker Kessler. But the Jazz are also a huge 3-point funnel. They're allowing the fourth most 3-pointers per game this year. And then the main area that both teams are way below average is transition defense. The Jazz are far and away the worst. They're 5 points. They're allowing 5 more points than the next closest team, which is the Lakers. So yeah, there's just a ton to like about this game. I'll hit on the Jazz stuff really quick because I think that it's a little bit more straightforward. I think if you want to get a little sneaky in like 150, you could, but for now it's just gonna be Laurie, Collins, and Clarkson for me. Laurie looks like a pretty strong option at 7K. Gonna get some ownership, but I think it's definitely warranted because he's playing the most minutes, gonna play around 38 in a close game. We've seen him have some really big upside against this Jazz team, put up 55.3 DK points in a high-scoring affair last season. So I think that he's definitely the safest from a minutes floor perspective and ceiling. But Collins is right there behind him. He's going to continue to get the start at power forward with Filipkowski manning the center position, which should have him avoiding Anthony Davis for most of the night, which is obviously going to bring less foul risk for a guy like Collins. And he's shown really big upside this season. Went for 57.5 against Phoenix, 55.2 against Chicago, and he's averaging 42.6 points per game, DraftKings points per game as a starter this season. And there's really only one game when he started this year where you really would be buried by playing him, and that was against the Clippers, which I would say is a pretty tough matchup. put up 28.5 DK points in that one. So Collins looks very strong to me. And then Clarkson, he's been playing right around 30 minutes a game the last 4 or 5 games, has scored no less than 31 DK points in 5 straight games. Over the last 5 games, he's also first on the team in usage and assist percentage. So looking to take on a lot bigger ball handling role. And he's had pretty big success against Lakers. I think that we would want to attack this Lakers team with opposing guards. And then I guess the stuff that is kind of like interesting to get deeper into would be Filipkowski at 5K. With him starting, he's been a pretty solid point per minute producer. Just not a ton of upside from a minutes perspective, and definitely a tough matchup against Anthony Davis. But the Lakers are slightly below average DVP wise versus center, so there's a little bit more upside there. I don't think that I'm going to begin to call it Sexton, but he makes a little bit of sense as a leverage play off of Jordan Clarkson if you wanted to max one those two and just kind of hope that Sexton gets a bulk of those minutes and not Clarkson. $400 price difference, so they're both very cheap for what is on paper a pretty solid matchup. And then the Keontae George and Isaiah Collier stuff is interesting because Keontae George got benched last game in the second half for Isaiah Collier. And he still played a ton of minutes. Collier got 26 minutes. They're just, I don't know. It's tough. Like this guard stuff is really tough to break down for the Jazz because they have 4 guys that seemingly all kind of do the same thing. They all kind of play the same position. So it's really tough to invest into. But I do think that there is some upside on all 4 of them. And Keontae, I mean, they're still committed to developing him. Still played 34 minutes, even coming off the bench. So there's a little bit of upside, but probably not enough. I think I'll definitely try to get to some of him and a little bit of Collier, a little bit of Sexton just to get some leverage off of chalky Jordan Clarkson. But outside that, you're not looking to get to any of these guys. Like there's just no upside there for a guy like Cody Williams, for a guy like Drew Eubanks. So yeah, I'll be just looking at the top 6 price guys for Utah. And on the Lakers side, I think that AD and LeBron are 2 of the best spends on the entire slate. Anthony Davis in an absolute smash spot. Utah bottom 3 DVP versus centers this season. AD still leading the team in usage at 32% after a string of somewhat down games by Anthony Davis's standards. He followed it up with 65.5 DK points, 57.5 DK points, and there's probably a 70-point upside game within the range of outcomes for Anthony Davis tonight, especially if the Lakers want to run up the score here. They easily could because this Jazz team just plays no defense. They are the heaviest turnover team in the league. They have an 18.6% turnover percentage. So I think there's upside from some of these Lakers getting steals and blocks, and definitely Anthony Davis is kind of the first guy that comes to mind there. LeBron James had his string of triple-doubles snapped, but still looks really good here. He's leading the Lakers in assist percentage, second in usage, first in touch time, as he's operating as the de facto point guard for this team. Utah allowing the 3rd most fantasy points to opposing power forwards this season. And he's seen a really, really big uptick since they shift D'Angelo Russell to the bench. He's essentially the point guard for the team right now, which is nothing new. We've seen that from LeBron in years past. But same thing for Austin Reeves. He's seen a slight uptick in usage since D'Lo went to the bench. Actually, his usage has gone down, but his touch time has gone up with him and LeBron just kind of running the point. But yeah, really, I love to attack the Jazz with opposing guards, especially point guards. They're bottom 3 DVP versus point guards. So he looks like a really, really strong option, even at 7.1K. I think that he's got a really big game in him as well. I probably want to get to one of these top 3 Lakers in most of my lineups. And if I rank it, it's definitely, I would say it's in ascending order in terms of salary. I like AD the most, LeBron next, and then Reeves after that. I still think you could probably get some upside out of D'Angelo Russell off the bench. He did play 30 against San Antonio, so there are cases for him to get his minutes ticked up a little bit, but probably a little too thin to go there tonight. But yeah, the Rui news, if he misses, probably seeing Connect in the starting lineup again. And I do like the matchup a lot for Don Connect. He had his best shooting game as a pro, had 27 points in that one, shot 5 of 10 from deep. Jazz, huge 3-point funnel, allowing a ton of catch and shoot points. So this could be a good spot for a guy like Don Connect. And I probably wouldn't be looking to get to Rui even if he is back, as much as I do like the matchup. Would expect some sort of limitation from him from a minutes perspective coming off the ankle injury.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love the breakdown. I'm gonna find myself in a spot where I think I like the first game a little bit more. I mean, this spread is a little shaky to me. Like you said, if we get full run from AD and LeBron, I mean, we could see total runouts where they just run the Jazz out of the gym. If that's the case, like I said, if you're making a handful of lineups, I don't think I mind at all playing, Clarkson and Russell together. Just to have it be just an open gym style game with 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter. But I love, and the last thing I'll say is I love the Sexton Clarkson swap. I think that's very sharp. If you do anticipate this game staying close. But guys, that's it. That's all 6 games. Couple of questions to round us out. Do we find ourselves max one of AD and LeBron from Go Collect?
I don't think that you need to. I think on a bigger slate, normally you would like something 8+, but yeah, something I did want to touch on in the this game environment. See if I can pull it up. So there was a game last year where these teams faced off, and you would have wanted five people from the game. D'Angelo Russell had a huge game even with Austin Reeves in lineup. There was no LeBron there, but AD had a triple-double, so you would have wanted him. You would have wanted D'Lo. On the Jazz side, John Collins put up 19 and 13. Lauri Markkanen had a 29, 9 and 5 game, and then Sexton had 27, 4 and 5. And then even Clarkson off the bench had 21, 4 and 4. So like realistically, you could have had 6 guys from this game. And I do think that the game environments tonight, there are enough cases for there being big blowouts where I think you could go deeper into this game from a game stack and kind of treat it like a 3-game slate if you wanted to X out OKC and San Antonio, if you wanted to X out the Pelicans and Dallas outside of the centers. Like you could realistically get 5 guys in this game and get a good amount of upside. But the same goes for that Cleveland game too. I think that those are 2 games you would want to get pretty deep into. And I do think that stacking is very viable tonight.
No, I love it. This is going to be a very fun slate. Starting great, ending great, a bunch of kind of junk in the middle. Guys, we appreciate the support. 419 people live right now. If you haven't clicked the like button, click that one more time. Rio, before we get out of here, any hot takes, anything you kind of want to stand by, something that people are going to message you after the slate is over saying that I told you so on the show?
Oh, man. Ham always puts me on the spot with this, and I don't come prepared.
Here, I'll give mine is AD has 22.5 fantasy points in the first quarter. Anything over that, I think it's absolute smash. I think it's one of those games where, if you don't have him, I think we can find ourselves in a point where the game starts and your bubbles are going down very fast. So I'm going to use, if the line was 22.5 in the first quarter for fantasy points, I will take the overs for AD.
I like that. Yeah, I think for me, okay, Peyton Pritchard is in, so that's good to get that news out of the way early. I think for me, I kind of want to set aside a good amount of my lineups where I'm playing deeper into some of these game environments, and definitely would be the Cleveland and Boston one, especially if we get news that LeVert or any combination of those 3 guys that are questionable for Cleveland are out. Then yeah, I definitely want to get to a good amount of Donovan Mitchell in my lineups tonight. I think that he's going to be slightly overlooked at kind of being overpriced, but he's just on an absolute tear right now. The minutes are starting to creep up a little bit, and he has good good history against the Celtics team since he's been a Cavalier. So I think that this could be a pretty big game for him. With this being a back-to-back tomorrow, maybe just see this team go all out tonight and kind of punt off the game tomorrow. So I like Donovan Mitchell as a spend up at 9K.
No, absolutely love it. Guys, before we get out of here, one more time, NBA 50 off your first month. Utilize it, man. I mean, it discounts, one night, you play the feature contest, have a nice little score. That's already paid off, including the next 3-4 months for you real fast. So we are multiple sports. Every night you could just go in and see all the winners that we have. Fantastic. Utilize the code. Everybody get in there. We appreciate everybody watching. Like I said, we got above 400 today. Let's get those likes above 200. Good luck tonight in your contest, and let's ship it.